Hey guys, today we'll be doing a twist on an old classic, chocolate custard, but instead of custard, we'll be using silken tofu. So what you'll need for this recipe is chocolate, any chocolate, doesn't really matter. Berries, blueberries, and raspberries and some mint for garnish, silken tofu, obviously, and a bit of honey for sweetness. So, it doesn't really matter what kind of chocolate you use. Right now we're using a blend of milk and dark. This is 50% dark. Feel free to use whatever chocolate you think is best. Right, so let's weigh this chocolate out. 150 grams worth, roughly. Cool, so that's 97 and 130, perfect. Okay, so with a double boil, you only generally want about that much water, so that's probably about 100 or so mils for a small saucepan. And you don't want the heat too high in case you burn the chocolate. So now we're just gonna let that come to a boil real quickly. Cool, and we're there. And so you just dump the chocolate in and wait a bit. Now it's pretty crucial at this point that you constantly stir. Really pay attention to this. Don't let this run without your undivided attention in case it burns, because this thing can burn. In fact, I might just turn the heat down a smidge because this is starting to get a little out of hand. So as you can see here, I'm just stirring the chocolate. I'm trying to agitate, I'm trying to move it about, trying to get it melted as fast as possible while still scraping the sides down, because the sides is where it can burn. And I would say that is about done. Okay, cool. The bowl is still quite warm, so residual heat can or should be able to get just those last little chunks of chocolate. Of course, if you're doing this in a microwave, sort of the same rules still apply. Every 30 seconds, you're mixing, and just trying to get to a point where it is melted. Okay, cool. Now I'm gonna let that cool, not completely, but cool to a point where it's probably just above room temperature. Still melted, essentially, but not hot. And now we move on to the tofu. Now, with this recipe, we are using a food processor. If you don't have a food processor, you can use a whisk. It'll take a bit longer and you might not be able to get as fine of a finish on the tofu, but you'll still get roughly within the same range of what we're trying to aim for today. Okay, so let's just cut the tofu real quickly so it fits into the food processor nicely. Let's get that in there. Oh, that's a bit of a mess. That's all right. So last remnants tofu. And this is one packet, so this is roughly 300 grams or so. So it's almost, what was it, 130? So almost a ratio of 1 to 2 in terms of tofu to chocolate. But of course, like everything, you can tailor it to your taste. So if you feel like you want more chocolate, then you add more chocolate. If you want more of that tofu taste, add more tofu. There's no hard and fast rule in terms of how this recipe should go. Entirely up to you. Cool. Now, we need to blend the tofu and get it into a custard-like consistency. Cool. And that is what we're looking for. All right, now let me just scrape down the sides of this with let me just use this spatula again. Okay, cool, so we'll just do that. Just get all the tofu back into the container itself. Okay, and at this point, you can taste test it. If you find it's as sweet as you'd like it, then call it a day. But just in case it isn't, I have a bit of honey here on the side. Let's just give that a quick. Nope. It's not too bad. That's actually quite nice. But I will add a bit of honey because I do like my sugar. And this is about half a tablespoon of honey. Yeah, perfect. That's right where I want it. Good amount of sweetness. And at this point, you want to let this set in the fridge or freezer, probably the freezer, for about 10 to 12 minutes. So yeah. Okay, right around here. Yeah, that'll do. All right, there we go. 12 minutes later, And the custard should have set slightly. Setting the custard just gives it a nice, I'll just pause that really quickly. It just gives it overall a nicer texture, a bit more firm. And that's about it. Now we can garnish. So generally, blueberries are quite nice. Berries as well. Raspberries, sorry, it's a raspberry, I know that. Raspberries are quite nice. And then a bit of mint. Be as fancy or as delicate as you do or do not want to be. And that's it. And that's the finished product. It's pretty good, if I do say so myself. Let's see what it tastes like. And that is just like, I'm not to toot my own horn, but it's pretty crazy that you're able to get this sort of consistency, mousse or custard-like, from silken tofu. And in terms of the flavor, like, it just, there's like almost a hint of nuttiness. It's weird, there's like a hint of nuttiness from the tofu, which you definitely wouldn't get that having the tofu on its own. But for some reason, when you mix it with the chocolate and the honey, and you blend it or you process it in that way, it almost brings out like a sort of nuttiness to it. But then with the chocolate, with the honey, it just makes such a good dessert. So for the recipe, click the link in the description below, and thanks for watching.